Coming up on the October 4th edition of Carolina Week.
The presidential candidates are stressing the power of the 18 to 24-year-old vote. Are Carolina students apathetic or involved?
Female inmates are finding freedom through the spoken word and warning some youth to avoid making the same mistakes.
The Heels field hockey team tries to make all the right moves against Carolina's biggest rival in the sport.
Plus, a look at your Carolina Week 4-day forecast.
All that and more.
Carolina Week starts now.
From the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, this is Carolina Week.
Welcome to the Monday edition of Carolina Week. I'm Courtney Robinson.
And I'm Joe Mott. Our top story tonight. We hear it all the time. Every vote counts. Just a little more than 500 votes separated George W. Bush and Al Gore in Florida in 2000. And in that year's presidential election, barely a third of voters ages 18 to 24 cast a ballot. Carolina Week's Lydia Garlikov says on this campus, students appear more energized this time around.
College-age voters have traditionally been considered swing voters in presidential elections. This year is no exception, and that's a fact not lost on Chapel Hill's campus.
If either President Bush or Senator Kerry boost turnout, boost their presence and their attractiveness among younger voters, it could have a central role in the campaign.
Voter turnout rates among young voters have been going down for the past 3 decades. But this year, campus political organizations here at Carolina are seeing a reversal in that trend.
Instead of dodging their heads below the political crossfire, they're getting back up into it, and they're showing that they do care about where their country is going.
Students gathered across campus Thursday night for the first of 3 presidential debates. The strong showing of students in places such as the Student Union reflect their understanding that knowledge is power that they'll use come November. The College Republicans was one of several groups whose members watched the debate at the Alpha Epsilon Pi fraternity house. Ashley Sakwa was among them.
I think that everybody should know what's going on in the world instead of just saying, oh, Kerry sucks or Bush sucks because of such and such or such and such, and rather know how they feel about the different issues going on and vote for the candidate that agrees with them.
President of the Young Democrats, Justin Guillory, who also happens to be Farrell Guillory's son, has worked hard to register students. He knows getting out and voting is important, but not just for those in college.
It could be 500 people could be the difference. And so not only do young voters vote, but every category of voters matters more now than they did before.
Voter turnout was just 37% across the country 4 years ago. The nonpartisan group Vote Carolina hopes the rate for this election grows to 50 or even 65% here at Carolina. In Chapel Hill, I'm Lydia Garlikov, Carolina Week.
The deadline to register to vote is this Friday, October 8th. You can get a registration form at a number of locations or log onto our website, carolinaweek.org, for a link to the form.
The presidential campaign is getting a bit noisier, and Chapel Hill's Franklin Street isn't excluded. A group of college Republicans and Bush supporters rallied outside the post office Friday. They brought posters, handed out pens, and talked with passers-by, and even registered voters. Rally organizers say Bush supporters aren't a tiny minority in Chapel Hill.
And we thought this would be a good chance to show that there are a lot of people, and there's a larger Bush presence on this campus than anybody thinks.
The group's choice of location wasn't a coincidence. It's the same site that has attracted several anti-Bush rallies in the past few weeks.
Bush and Kerry aren't the only 2 candidates debating. On the state level, gubernatorial challenger Patrick Valentine and incumbent Mike Easley had a spirited debate Monday.
We've made so much progress, and you're totally unaware of it. You need to do your homework if you're going to talk about education.
That's so old school, it's pathetic.
That was just one of the many barbs exchanged during the debate. Easley defended his administration, saying he passed legislation protecting education funding, while Valentine voted against it. Valentine argued that Easley has taken education in the wrong direction.
With election season in full swing, it's essential to become familiar with the candidates' platforms. You might be surprised to learn where some students say they turn for information. Carolina Week reporter R.J. Weber has the story.
Peter Jennings and Wolf Blitzer. Many students at Carolina say they turn to more non-traditional TV programs to learn about President Bush and Senator Kerry.
The Daily Show.
I love the O'Reilly Factor.
I'd probably watch the O'Reilly Factor.
Oh, it's totally the Daily Show. Like, hands down, no questions asked.
The Daily Show.
I'd probably choose the O'Reilly Factor.
I'd choose the Daily Show, hands down.
You heard right. Comedy Central's The Daily Show with Jon Stewart and Fox News Channel's The O'Reilly Factor are hot choices for students. That's why some say they were appalled when Bill O'Reilly recently bashed The Daily Show audience, saying, "You know what's really frightening? You actually have an influence on this presidential election. That is scary, but it's true. You've got stoned slackers watching your dopey show every night, and they can vote."
I mean, I think it's a cheap shot.
I read that in the paper, and I thought that was pretty funny because why would stone slackers, first of all, be able to concentrate on anything that's going on?
I'm not stoned, so I don't think that we're a bunch of stoned slackers when we watch it.
The Daily Show was appalled too, and that's why the folks there did a little research. According to Nielsen Media Research, viewers of Jon Stewart's show are more highly educated than people who watch O'Reilly's show. Moreover, a University of Pennsylvania survey reports that the Daily Show viewers have higher campaign knowledge than national news viewers and newspaper readers. Students here agree, saying both shows influence politics.
As soon as they bring in a guest, and as soon as they sit them down and start asking them questions, they turn into journalists, and you can see their impact.
And this impact just might influence who the next president will be. In Chapel Hill, I'm R.J. Weber, Carolina Week.
There just might be a possibility for more antics when O'Reilly appears on The Daily Show this Thursday, October 7th.
The newly crowned Mr. and Miss Black Student Movement can strut their stuff on campus this week. On Thursday, students elected Arthur T.J. Abrams, Mr. BSM, and Kenitris Houston, Miss BSM. Officials made the announcement Friday night at the annual BSM Coronation Ball. The winners move on to vie for Mr. and Ms. UNC. Political candidates are running for election, but some students and area residents are running for another purpose. Saturday morning, students stretched out to get ready for the Dance Marathon 5K. The course began at Hooker Fields, went all the way around campus, and then back to the finish line at Hooker Fields. Volunteers cheered for the runners, and after the race provided them with bagels, juice, and music from a local band. Runner Megan Posey says the run has two purposes.
It might be a little early to get up, but it's definitely worth it. You've gotten your workout in, you feel great the rest of the day, and you've also helped a great cause.
The 5K is just one of the numerous events the Dance Marathon Committee puts on each year to raise money for the North Carolina Children's Hospital.
Even when students stand still and stay silent, they're still able to focus attention on issues. Roughly 35 anti-abortion demonstrators lined the wall by McCorkle Place as part of the national life chain that occurred across the U.S. Sunday. More than 1,000 cities had active participants. These Carolina and Duke students represented both campuses' respective Students for Life groups, holding signs to promote their position. Carolina Students for Life President Stephanie Evans says Life Chain's goal is to draw attention to the issue.
There's a lot of horrible things happening in this world, and abortion is one of them. People are being denied the very basic right to life, and we're trying to defend that right today.
A pro-life ministry started the first Life Chain in California in 1987, and the demonstration reached the national level in 1994. When we return, spoken word performances from a group you wouldn't expect.
Find out what these women are doing to bring culture and a pointed message to area high schools.
I helped turn my child's public school into a whole new kind of school. One with a curriculum that really motivates kids. One that has extended hours, 6 days a week, year-round. With loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One that has support services like medical and dental right there. A school where parents' involvement is encouraged. Where teachers have more time to teach. And students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. You can help turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
A group of local prisoners is trying to find freedom through writing and performing.
Myself because I have nowhere else to go. Inside myself is where I had to figure out where it all began.
8 inmates from the Raleigh Corrections Center for Women are using their experiences to teach youth a lesson. Members of the Raleigh Women's Repertory Committee are using artistic expression to cope with their past and warn the next generation about their consequences of their decisions.
Even as the weight of conviction slammed down on top of me, the only thing I wanted to do was to make my mama stop crying.
The group has been together a little more than 3 years. It will perform in Carborough next month. Next week, we'll take a closer look at the group and its purpose.
The university's latest campus security report is out. The report, available online, focused on university efforts to improve student safety. Aggravated assaults on campus are down, and forcible sex offense numbers are also down. But the number of drug-related arrests is up compared to 2002, with more than 30 such arrests last year.
You might have heard the horror stories or experienced the agony firsthand. Carolina Week reporter Amanda Seeley takes a look at some of Carolina's most feared classes.
Quite a few classes at Carolina have earned bad reps.
Psych 30, the psych stat course. I've heard that was pretty tough.
Econ 185 is a financial market.
Anth 10 is the one that a lot of people take, and you can either have a really good experience or really bad, because I've heard mixed things from people.
Organic chemistry.
These classes are notorious for their workload, stress, and expensive books. The university might require students to take these tough classes, but some students realize the value of a hard-earned education, even if the class is organic chemistry.
If you're a doctor or if you're something in the medical field, it's good to know that kind of information.
Another class at Carolina that strikes fear into the hearts of students like Sean Maroney is media law in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication.
Oh, I just heard horror stories.
In media law and other classes required for certain majors, you have to get at least a C- to receive credit. Although this makes some students wary of these courses, media law professor Dr. Kathy Packer says it's not as bad as it seems.
What do they have to fear? They don't have anything to fear. And I tell my students, this isn't like real life. Here, if you're not successful, you get to do it again. And a lot of it is based on, misinformation about the class. I once had a colleague who called me on the phone and said, I heard that 40% of your students have to repeat the class. Is that true? And I said, no.
These classes might seem like nothing but stress makers for now, but in the future, these classes just might come in handy.
Well, it's going to keep us out of jail. Just giving us the little bit of knowledge to make sure you don't libel someone, just a little bit of knowledge to know when you can go into a meeting and when the judge can kick you out of the courtroom. So I think it just helps us become better journalists.
That might be a good trade-off for having to take a tough class. In Chapel Hill, I'm Amanda Seeley, Carolina Week.
Surprisingly, no one mentioned the dreaded Econ 10, and from personal experience, that one should definitely be on the list.
The media might seem shallow or even irresponsible at times, but wartime journalists are making huge sacrifices to bring you the story. Friday, more than 100 people watched the documentary Dying to Tell the Story in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication. The film focuses on Dan Eldon, a photojournalist who was killed in Somalia in 1993. It also focuses on the importance of exposing viewers to these types of images, despite the dangers. Dan's mother, Kathy Eldon, is executive producer of the film and has become a champion of enterprising journalism.
I'm just full of admiration for journalists and what they do and what they see and how they conduct themselves. And they're human. There are some creeps out there, of course there are. But as a general rule, they're really extraordinary people.
To learn more about Dan's story, you can visit our website at carolinaweek.org. Well, weathercaster Aaron Moore joins us now with weather.
Aaron, the Indian summer weather has me a little bit confused. Please tell me that cooler weather is on its way.
Cooler weather is definitely on the way. Fall is here, but we need to keep in mind that we're not out of the woods for the hurricane season, which doesn't end till November 30th. So that brings me to our weather question. Tropical storms have been named since 1950. How deep into the alphabet have we gone in a single season? Is it R, Roxanne, S, Sebastian, T, Tanya, or W, William? I'll have the answer and the 4-day forecast when Carolina Week returns.
So my kid brother and his friends want to party. Heck, I'll even buy the beer. Besides, if he gets out of line, he has to answer to me.
2.6 million teenagers don't know a person can die from alcohol overdose. Say nothing, do nothing, stop nothing.
Okay, so sometimes I turn my back on my kids when they drink at home. At least they're not doing drugs.
Underage drinkers are 50 times more likely to use cocaine than those who don't drink alcohol. Say nothing, do nothing, stop nothing.
Imagine what America would be like today if Martin Luther King never had a dream. Help keep the dream alive. To find out more about the Martin Luther King Memorial in Washington, D.C., call or log on now.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Carolina Week. I'm weathercaster Erin Moore here with the check of your weather headlines. We're going to have some dry days this week as we get into our first full week of October. We're going to have a cool front that's going to be coming through tonight on into tomorrow, which will keep our nights very, very cool this week. But we will be warming towards the weekend, so no need to keep the sweaters out for the weekend. As we take a look at the satellite map, we can see this area of moisture right over here in front of over Texas and Louisiana. This is not going to be a player in our weather. It's just the first thing that pops out when you see it. So right here, we've got this cold front that came through last night. It was a very weak cold front, but some of you might have heard some of the thunder and felt some of the rain if you were in Durham. But what we do have is a cold front that's coming through this evening. As we take a look at the surface map, we can see this cold front, and it's going to be coming through tonight on into tomorrow, but it is a dry, cold front. So it's not going to bring us any moisture in the form of precipitation or even humidity. We're going to have some very dry days over the next couple days. Back up here we have a high pressure system, and the winds just counterclockwise rotate around the high pressure system, which is going to bring us a north-northwesterly wind over the next couple days, which is going to cool down our temperatures greatly. As we take a look at our October normals, you see that normal high for October is 72 degrees and our normal low is 48 degrees. Over the next couple days, we're going to be right around the normal high, maybe a couple degrees lower, but our low temperatures for Tuesday and Wednesday will be definitely far below the low of 48. Our average precipitation is 3.18 inches. As we take a look at our 4-day forecast, we see Tuesday and Wednesday, our high should be 70 degrees with our lows in the low 40s. Thursday and Friday, as I said before, we're going to be warming up into the mid to upper 70s with lows in the upper 40s and low 50s. So we've got some great weather coming up. So our answer for our weather question.
I was thinking about an R, maybe? That's kind of late in the alphabet.
That is, do you have a?
I would go with R also. Roxanne's a great singer.
Okay. Actually, the answer is T. Tanya, which came in 1995. There were 19 named storms that year. So it was a very active year, more so than this year.
Well, that's very interesting. Well, thank you very much, Erin.
Thank you.
And now let's go to sports. Luke, you've been on my mind.
Well, I didn't have that effect on people, but speaking of being on somebody's mind, I've got a little music on my mind. That leads us to our trivia question of the week, which is, what was the #1 pop song the last time UNC beat Wake Forest in field hockey? Is it A, Who Let the Dogs Out by the Baha Men, B, Country Grammar by Nelly, C, Music by Madonna, or D, This I Promise You by NSYNC? We'll have that answer for you later, but let's get right into a busy weekend in sports. Carolina's field hockey team kicked off the weekend with a match against the second-ranked Wake Forest Demon Deacons, a team Carolina hadn't beaten since 2000. Wake Forest Kelly Dostal scored one of the Deacs' 2 first-half goals to take a 2-0 lead going into halftime. Second half, Brooke Miller with a goal. Later in the half, Naomi Weatherald scores to pass the defense to tie the game at 2, force overtime. The second overtime, the Heels and Deacs play a little game called Strokes, and goalkeeper Katie Tron comes up huge, winning the game for the Heels 3-2 against the Demon Deacons. Stands tall in the net, but takes more than a few teammates to bring her down. Carolina keeper is happy to end the winless streak against Wake Forest.
It was really exciting. It was incredible. I was so happy for the team, for all the hard work that we've done, for my teammates for stepping up big and playing with confidence. But at the same time, as soon as I got up, my first thought was, we got to play them again next week.
On Sunday, Carolina faced Radford University for the senior day game. After players like Kelsey Kieran take honors, well, the Tar Heels take the field. There they scored some ground balls against the Highlanders and must protect their house by keeping possession. The Heels leave Radford scoreless in the first half, and during the second half, they take advantage of multiple penalty shots. Not only is Radford beaten 9-0, but the Heels also beat them up. Senior Carrie Fetting-Smith's aggressive play helps the Heels to a 14th straight victory. Well, the Tar Heel football team looked to do something they have never done before on Saturday, win at Florida State. And what better time to knock off the Noles than when their quarterback is making his first start. FSU offense was clicking early as Leon Doc Washington takes one. Whoop, whoop! FSU up 7-0. But Jaworski Pollock says, I can do that. Breaking tackles and breaking ankles. This leads to a Tar Heel field goal. But FSU's Lorenzo Ringo Booker says, I'm your Huckleberry, and waltzes into the end zone. Can somebody get Coach Bunny a new shirt? He is not sure. Needing a score, Pollock takes the pass and won't be denied from the end zone. Touchdown, Carolina. Or was it? Take another look. Jaworski Pollock goes up and looks like he's down, but the Heels take it anyway. Then FSU gunslinger Wyatt Earp Sexton tombstones the Heels with these 2 late-game touchdown slots. The Heels drop to 2-3 on the season and face off against I-40 rival NC State this Saturday at Keenan. Well, Sunday, Carolina and Duke tuck up arms or legs with a Carlisle Cup point in the balance. With a flurry of goals at the end, we'll let you know which way the balance tilted when Carolina Week Sports returns.
When your children ask where you got married, will you have to tell them, over there by the unleaded? When we lose a historic place, we lose a part of who we are. Help protect historic places in your community. Visit nationaltrust.org.
When you shop in Orange County, your money comes back to you.
Thank you for shopping Orange.
So shop Orange and see what a difference you can make.
Just when you start feeling confident about yourself, beat UVA in your first ACC match, you're gelling as a team, then you have to play your biggest rival at their house. Oh, and by the way, the Blue Devils are undefeated and ranked number 2 in the nation. Well, at 10-0-0 overall, Duke starts the game with a big head of confidence, and for good reason. Owicho Adagwa gets a nice pass and slips it by UNC's Justin Hughes to tie the game at 1. And yeah, it's a little hot out there on the field. A couple of minutes later, another great pass, and Adagwa finishes again into the left side, netting Duke 2, Carolina 1. Then later in the game, Ray Fumo, Jamie Watson passes to Tim Merritt, and screams a worm burner past the goalkeeper. Game tied 2-2, and Timmy is very excited. Overtime, maybe? Well, Duke's Danny Kramer doesn't think so as he finishes the diving header. 1 minute to go. Duke goes on to win the game 3-2. UNC coach Elmar Bolovich is heartbroken after the game.
I'm broken for the players. I know how they feel. And we just got to battle through. We got to put that aside. We learned early in the season, maybe we can turn it around, maybe we can still get the results that we want and surprise some teams.
Thanks to Duke's late-game heroics, the Blue Devils managed to finally get on the board in the Carlisle Cup. Carolina was up by 1.5 points thanks to wins in volleyball and field hockey, but Sunday's win for Duke moves the Blue Devils only a half point behind the Heels. Well, in its first game without injured star Lindsay Tarpley, the women's soccer team delivered more of the same against NC State on Thursday. 3 different Tar Heels scored to pick up where Tarpley left off, as Carolina remains unbeaten with a record of 10-0-1. After a mediocre start in September, Carolina's volleyball team looked to rekindle its winning ways in October, when the University of Virginia busted its troops down to Carmichael Auditorium Friday night. Cavs were looking to improve upon their 11-3 record, but the Heels were ready for them. Carolina takes the first game after an 8-0 run, but Virginia overcomes a 3-point deficit and ties the match at 1. The Heels take the next 2 games thanks to senior Caroline DeRoque, who had a career-high 29 digs. Katie Wright adds 18 kills and 9 blocks of her own as the Tar Heels notch their 3rd ACC victory. In a quick turnaround, Carolina takes on Maryland on Sunday. The Heels win the first 2 games with monster kills by senior Molly Piles and good defense by the entire front line. In the Maryland timeout, the coach tells the Terps, this is how you hit the ball, guys. It must have worked as Maryland comes out smashing returns and winning the 3rd game. But the 4th game was all Heels as freshman Brittany Randall gets in on the action, and Molly, well, she piles on even more than one to take the match 3-1. The win marks 300 at Carolina for head coach Joe Segula, who downplays the milestone.
I don't really count those things. I want to just win this match, win the ACC this year, and win this 2004 season. That's the most important thing. 300 wins means I've been around a long time and been given opportunity to coach at a great university.
With the 2 weekend wins, the volleyball team improved to 9-7 overall and 4-1 in the ACC. The Heels travel to Raleigh to take on the Wolfpack on Tuesday. Well, men's tennis is off to a fast start this fall with a sweep in its first tournament. The team hosted the Josephine Group Memorial Invitational this weekend and captured 6 of 6 titles. Junior Ryan Lucici says Luchuchu leads the way with a 3-set victory against NC State. Lucici drops the first set but rallies to win the next 2. Freshman Tristan Heinrich won sets 2 and 3 to take down South Carolina's Thomas Stoddard in Flight D. Flight C guarantees a Tar Heel victory as Carolina's Jonathan Jonda defeated teammate Carl Wishart 6-3, 6-4. And freshman Benjamin Carlotti caps off the singles sweep with a win in straight sets and feels good about his debut. I feel pretty good about my debut as well, and especially what really gets me feeling good is some music. So do you guys have an answer to our trivia question?
Luke, I'd ask you for a performance, but I don't think we have all night. Joe,
I have no idea, so why don't you just tell me?
Well, the answer is actually C, Music by Madonna. September 30th, 2000 was the date. The Heels won 3-2 at Francis E. Henry Stadium.
Well, thank you very much, Luke.
Thanks, Luke.
2 community events, one in Chapel Hill, one in Durham.
One excluding pets and the other blessing them. Find out more when we return.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll put that out.
If you have a story idea, contact Carolina Week at 843-8292. You can also visit us online at carolinaweek.org. If you have questions about this program, write Carolina Week at Campus Box 3365, UNCCH, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27599.
Festival always draws a big crowd to Franklin Street, but Sunday, not all of the fair's viewers were welcome. Police at both ends of Fall Festival kept cars from driving down West Franklin Street, and they were also on the lookout for dogs. Signs warned animal lovers to keep their pets at home. The rules left some dog owners sitting on the sidelines while others gathered outside the fair's boundaries. Charles Rollins says he doesn't understand why he and his dog Beauregard couldn't go in.
You think if a dog's on a leash and is under control, I mean, as long as it wasn't being, aggressive towards the people there shouldn't be a problem. I mean, he's not going to bother anybody.
Dogs might not have been welcome at Festival, but folks at Duke were more than happy to see man's best friend. Duke Chapel looked more like a barnyard than a place of worship. The 16th annual Blessing of the Animal service on Sunday. Pet owners of all faiths got a chance to have their furry friends blessed. Cats and all kinds of dogs were there by the dozens, as well as some more unusual pets. The event is in memory of St. Francis of Assisi, a monk who believed all animals should be treated with dignity. Cancer survivor Angie Boso brought her hairless Sphinx Ernie because she says he's more than just a pet.
He's a constant reminder of survival as well, and to bless them is as important. They don't get to go to church as often as we do, so it's kind of nice for them to have a day where they can.
After each animal received its own personal blessing, organizers pitched the benefit of local animal shelters. Well, that does it for this edition of Carolina Week.
Thanks for joining us, and we tune in next week. Good night.